are going to work on an exercise I call the auto check-in. Lots of trainers use it, especially clicker trainers. We use it for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's just a great exercise to help you, the handler, build your clicker training skills. It's also a very good exercise to work on with puppies and dogs to help them learn that looking at you, paying attention to you is always reinforced, even if you're not asking for it. A lot of times we tend to think that we only want to capture and reward the behaviors that we ask for. But sometimes when we're working with puppies and dogs, we want to strengthen a behavior even if we haven't asked them for it in a training session. And auto check-ins are one that I do. Here are times that I would be capturing it even out in the world or in class in a training session. If I'm sitting in a classroom with a bunch of other handlers and their dogs, and maybe there's some barking or some goofy stuff going on, and my puppy or dog just turns to me and just looks up at me, I'm going to immediately click and give them a treat because they're choosing to not react to the noise or the distraction. They're just kind of turning and looking at me like, hey, how's it going up there? And I'm going to reinforce that. Paying attention to me is always better than paying attention to something else that's going on. Could be the squirrel that ran in front of you, the dog that's barking at them, the excited person that's coming towards them, sometimes even something that they're uncomfortable with. I would much rather have my puppy or dog have a solid reinforcement history of turning to me rather than barking at something they're afraid of or going towards something they're excited about. So by just doing this simple exercise, we strengthen a behavior, and we also work on our clicker skills. So, Ducky. So what we're going to work on now is how do we teach this skill? So it's pretty simple. In a minute here, I'm going to have Ducky, just the first time to get the exercise going, I'm going to say his name. When he looks up at me, anywhere at my face, not at my treats, I'm going to click and I'm going to toss a treat for him. He can go and get it. It does two things. It gets him to break eye contact with me, and it gets him to physically move away. Then he gets to choose what does he want to do. Well, because he's been a clicker trained puppy, he wants to repeat behaviors that work. Ducky. So he's going to keep coming back and wanting to get that clicker to go off again. So let's see what happens. So I got my first round. Now I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to wait and see what he offers. So Ducky's like, well, yeah, something about looking up at Michelle makes that clicker go off and a treat show up. I'm going to do that again. He gives me eye contact. I just click immediately, toss the treat for him to go and get. I'm not cueing him. I'm not asking him to do anything. I'm just waiting to see what he offers up. Looks up at me, click, toss another treat for him. Here you go. Wait and see what he does next. Turns and looks up at me. Again, I'm going to toss a treat for him to go and get. So Ducky is already learning through training that repeating behaviors that have previously worked, meaning resulted in a click and a treat, are worth repeating again. So when you're doing this exercise, the thing I like about it is you're doing it off leash. So you want to be indoors in the beginning, only one dog at a time. So if you have multiple dogs, separate them. I want him to be free to move around. One, I want to make sure I can toss this treat and he can freely go and get it. Here we go, bud. Find it. So I might do this exercise based on my puppies. If I have a young puppy, 1 minute. If I have a little bit older dog, I might do this for 4 or 5 minutes. You can do this sitting on your couch or sitting in a chair because all you're capturing is them coming back to you, offering you eye contact, you're clicking and tossing him a treat and then waiting to see what he's going to do next. So if you're doing this for the very first time, again, you want to be inside. There's too much distraction outside, too many things to compete with. We want to have his undivided attention. Again, off leash. You're not pulling him back to you. You're not prompting him or luring him. When he looks at me, I click, toss his treat. If I weren't making this video, I would be standing here saying nothing. I would just be hanging out. Good job. So the way I work through this exercise, I start inside for 1 or 2 sessions. When my puppy's doing really well, if I have a safe, confined area outside, meaning a real fenced yard, I'll go out and do this off leash in my backyard. And it's the exact same exercise. You start one time by getting their attention. Ducky looks at you, click, throw the treat. He goes and gets it. Now going forward, you're not calling him back to you. You're just waiting to see what he's going to do. Now your game has started. Now he's like, oh, okay, I'll keep coming back and looking at her. So you do this outside for, again, age-based, 1 to 3 or 4 minutes, and then you just stop. When your puppy returns to you, what you're capturing is the check-in. If they happen to sit along with that, it's fine. But all we really care about is capturing that eye contact. So if I then have really good progress in my backyard, then I'm going to take my puppy or dog. I might put them on a long line. You know, I have 30-foot, 50-foot leashes. So I might take them out into my front yard, put them on a 50-foot line, and play this out in the front yard, because now a totally different environment. But they have the freedom to move further away from me than 4 or 5 feet. When he's doing well out there, I'm going to go to the park and do this. I'm going to go to random places in my community, and I'm going to start working on this. And one of the reasons I find this very helpful is by building this consistent history of paying attention and checking in with you and ignoring other things and attending to you instead, you can have less reactive, distracted behavior when you're working out in public. I find already with Ducky, if I'm walking him somewhere, whether it's indoors or out at the park, he will randomly just turn when we're walking and just turn and look up at me. And yeah, I click and treat that. Why? Because I'd rather have him pay attention to me than pay attention to lots of other random stuff, especially if I'm not asking for it. I don't want to take my dog out and his whole walk is Ducky, 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 where I'm just demanding that he pay attention to me. I'd rather have him want to offer it freely, and you better believe I'm going to capture it. Do I do that every time he looks at me? No. As I'm working and walking and doing things with him, you know, I randomly will capture it if he looks up and pays attention if we're on a walk. But I definitely capture it at times, like if I'm in a group class with my puppy, if I'm in a situation where it's very distracting and they choose to not bark at other things and just turn and look up at me, yeah, I'm gonna click and give them a treat. Then I have the option to maybe move and do something else so I don't leave them in that environment. But this simple exercise can help a lot with dogs who get easily distracted in different environments, who can get anxious in different environments. So if you turn their brain on and have them thinking versus having all these emotional reactions to things, you can decrease some of their stress and some of their reactive behavior. So again, this is meant to be an exercise that can go anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. Don't go longer than that. It's just too long. They start getting bored and they don't want to participate. And you gradually increase the distraction level. So I would encourage you, even with your young puppies as young as 3-4 months of age, you can start doing this. Just keep it really short.